Please send your messages to WhatsApp 0809 444 That is for WhatsApp messages. You can watch us live on YouTube, youtube.com/smooth91FM Lagos. I'm live on Instagram at Valentine Ohu, so you can join us and watch as well. Thank you very much, Taiwo. Taiwo is missing Fisayo. Where's Fisayo? It's probably caught in that traffic on a Zumba.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's
I think
possible.
so. I think a tanker fell.
Yes, that's what I heard. A diesel tanker. People are advised. Humphrey, thank you for sending that message earlier. People are advised to avoid that route. Tanker rail to the other lane, heading to Bonny Camp, causing serious traffic inward Bonny Camp and Lekki One. And on Lucas, some people are scooping diesel. People still do not learn.
You know?
Now, on the matter of bribery in Nigeria, there was a tweet that Rotus retweeted, and somebody actually mentioned him and Immigration Services and of course Smooth FM. Said talking about the passport renewal this year, says he paid no bribe. He said I did online renewal and I renewed at the Lhasa passport office. And then Mr. Funshi replied, it says if fines for traffic offences are automated, then bribes will disappear since you won't have to follow anyone to the office. What do you think about putting innovation behind this, to curb bribery and corruption?
Well, I think it's one of the only sensible things to do. I know that as far back as 1999 or maybe 2000 thereabout, Lagos State government had been trying to do that. There was a whole database center, I think, set up by Oracle back then in the Secretariat in Allow, so I'm quite aware of that. There was a whole, I can't remember what it's called right now. And certain members of staff and all of that were trained and so on and so forth. But the interesting thing here is that people went through the process and were able to get it within 2 weeks, which is record breaking, in that sense. And and still in my head, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. Maybe now there's some kind of a penalty, or there are for going outside of the official channels, so maybe people are being penalized, and that's because it's just a complete racket. But with technology behind it, just makes it a whole lot easier, meaning that it's more difficult to what you call this thing, to intercept or to circumvent the process.
Yes.
In that sense, and then profit from it. Because if you can't circumvent the process, it's difficult for you to profit from it personally, in that sense. So if you know that, oh, I'm going to go online and do this, and then I'll carry whatever necessary documentation is required, and then I go there and I get what I need to get done. Same thing with traffic fines and offenses. There's no point. And Lagos State is already doing it. So there are some cameras, some license plate cameras, or some cameras that can actually recognize license plates around Lagos, particularly in Secretariat area in Ikeja, in there. Because a friend of mine happened to her. Just got a letter and said that the license plate was expired. And, so the thing had snapped it, I've processed it, and then they just dispatched a letter.
What kind of letter? Physical letter?
It was a physical letter that was dispatched.
Like on paper?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And they had to show up and go and and then part of the process also was then they now went, tax clearance and all those things. So it just heaps up everything.
Yes. At a certain point, they were saying that they intended to do it, that they were testing it.
As in, I know somebody that it
so now it's live.
Yeah, so she just says, look, she said, if your papers are not good, don't pass that area because they're going as you're just going to get a letter and so on and so forth. They're like that. So it's technology helps with that. You don't need to keep throwing bodies on the road. You don't need to, I think nowadays they say last man can't chase people anymore, if they break and so on and so forth there. Even entering people's cars and all those kind of things. It's really,
I always thought that
it has
was
to be, I mean, it's an excessive way. There's no, it's just, as far as I'm concerned, it's almost like
it's like forcing your way into my house.
Yeah, it's like hooliganism,
intrusion.
Yeah, it's intrusion, so I don't care what empowers you. But that thing that empowers you hasn't given you a right to my vehicle or to my personal possession in the first instance. The second part of it is the fact that even if I've committed an offense and the law says, okay, that my vehicle needs to be impounded or whatever it is, or I can't drive again, maybe because of, for whatever reason and so on and so forth like that day, then we need to get to that point before, we do that. But at that point, I would be the one surrendering it because I know that I've already contravened the law. So technology does help, and that's the key here. It helps reduce that whole dependent on human beings and being able to make all those judgment calls, and then somebody comes and says, okay, Oga, I feel help you if you do
Yeah.
this, if you do that, and so on and so forth. Like,
Yes,
so-
just eliminate every option
Exactly,
that's
so-
available that would give people a reason to cut corners.
and let's do this thing properly. Let's do things the way they're supposed to be done.
All right. We have messages here. Sharon sent in this message. Thank you very much, Taiwo, for that. Fisaya just stepped in and everybody called him on Instagram Live at Valentine. If you're watching. Fisaya, what was the reason for? Was it traffic around the Zumba? Did you take that route?
No, I didn't take that.
But did you see it?
No.
Oh, wow. These guys are proud. Sharon said,
Move to the mainland.
Sharon said the whole traffic can scheme. Traffic camera, that's what you meant to say. The traffic cam scheme can't work, is what he says. The whole country hasn't had lights for 2 days. Last, people still jump on the road to check the papers. But they're, on a serious note, though, the traffic traffic cameras, they are being tested on this Lekki toll axis as well.
Yeah, those flash ones.
You're coming from
yeah,
the Lekki axis and you're approaching VI.
Yeah, they're those flash ones. They just flash boom like that. They pick your stuff. I mean, there are ways to power these things. We don't necessarily need national grid to power these things. There's solar systems to do it. We can have independent power solutions to be able to run this thing. So ultimately, I don't see it as a problem. What I see that in the end is that people being able to, or finding ways to eventually still try to circumvent the process. That's a big issue. Saying that, okay, yes, the camera has caught you. You've been, this has done blah, 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 and so on and so forth. They're like that. And then next thing they say, okay, we'll delete something, or we'll be able to do something for you. So there are all of those things there. But it can work. We just need a willing and committed leadership to be able to push this, and everybody else falls in line
and create clear consequences so that even if the officers themselves enable bad behavior, they too will be punished. And Rotus is here in the studio, and he's very
this city. I'm tired, man. I'm just tired of this Lagos. The tanker will just shut down everything. Anyway, Fisayo Taiwo, thanks for coming in. Valentine, thanks for holding it down.
My pleasure.
What about e-voting, guys? We're going to talk about how tech can reduce bribery and corruption and so on. How about we talk about how electronic voting can stop ballot snatching? You guys were very enthusiastic about it the last time.
So the thing is that when it comes to politics, it's not as clear cut as you breaking the law. The law is already established there, but when it comes to politics, this is left to people's free will. And when you go within that realm of people's free will, you have you're dealing with emotions. You're dealing with a lot of things like a lot of psychological imbalance or psychological balance, as it were. So people have different temperaments, different things that you can't regulate that. All you can do is eventually pick an average, and that's why it's a bit more complex, because there's sentiments attached to voting or to elections there. And technology, while it might be able to solve certain parts of it, can't in the long run. Also, the level of education of the polity in itself is very critical. Otherwise, these things will constantly be abused or used in the inappropriate manner.
What do you think?
I think there is deliberate bottleneck in the electoral process. And I think there are deliberate inefficiencies created as part of the electoral system, right? So I think that's what you have to deal with. So it's like saying someone with the absolute power, like you say, the knife and the yam, surrendering the knife to someone else and holding the yam. No, that won't happen easily. Like most every other thing should. How many people know that in the UK right now there is election going on and there's not been any report of ballot box snatching,
right?
Or stuffing of ballot box or.
If you go and check through history, I'm telling you, if you check through history, you would have seen certain elements of those things. They grew to this point.
This is 2019.
Hey, we're growing.
We are not.
We are growing. So
no, absolutely not. We're not. So I'm just saying that some of these bottlenecks are created. I sincerely don't understand why we need a coalition center. Because, again, I have strong interest in politics. I know exactly where these things happen from.
Right.
So from the polling units, to the collation centers, then to a central collation center where all of those things
can be
create
bypassed.
numbers. It's just created for that purpose. So I think that's the problem why it won't work.
Even the United States doesn't have full electronic voting system.
Yeah, but better than us, Sha. They're better than where we are. All right. Thank you guys for that. Okay, I talked with, okay, what do we have here? I talked about ride sharing. We talked about ride sharing last week.
Yes.
And we're talking about how you preferred buses to motorcycles. Yesterday, Plenty Waka invited members of the media to check out their ride hailing service with their buses. Decent ride, it wasn't bad, but I was wondering about how, if there's any room to accommodate ride sharing for cars, motorcycles, and now buses. Well, what do you guys think?
There's room everywhere. I mean, to be honest, we live in a cosmopolitan city, and no better place to test these things or to see whether they will work than here. I guess that, I mean, Lagos is one of those places where people's buying power would be able to afford these things in any case. But the reality is this. The buses, yes, they are better. They take 14 people or thereabout, as opposed to the bikes that take just one person per time in that sense. So I think it's a stark improvement on just the bikes in terms of the ride hailing side of things there. Same concerns come again, which are in terms of the regulation, what government is saying about it there. And if they won't face other kind of harassment from other kind of unofficial agencies or unofficial,
we know who you're
illegal,
talking about.
yes.
We know who you're talking about. Yeah. NUITW now. What do you think, Josiah? What do you think about the ride hailing for buses? What do you think?
I mean, I think it's an interesting opportunity, but again, I also like to look at it from the business side, right? So, how are they sourcing the buses? Are they buying their buses? Are they, leasing it? So all of these things will drive profitability, but again, or efficiency of how the operations run. But again, I think the most important thing when I think about ride hailing or for this kind of buses, that I know there are companies that have invested heavily in staff buses, in all of that, and they're not used to full capacity. I can imagine ride hailing companies partner with some of those existing, bus owners and using it. I mean, similar to Uber. If Uber had to buy new cars for its ride hailing businesses, it doesn't make sense on a unit economic basis. So, but for the bus hailing, do you have to buy buses every time? Do you have to partner with banks or all of those kind of people that have, that use their buses just for one trip to pick their staff on the way? Do you want to partner with schools that have school buses and then they only use it between just before 8 o'clock? So what happens during the day until pickup time? So there are interesting ways to think around sharing the infrastructure rather than buying new ones. So just all of those things feed into how the economics of the bus hailing will typically work for the company. But I think it's an interesting opportunity. I remember when I was a lot younger, I used to live at Berger, work in Ikoyi. I have to wake up early in the morning just to ensure that I don't miss the last BRT bus after Jade Berger, because if I missed it means I have to wait for another 2 hours for the first bus that had gone to VI to come back. So I always dread that thing around. Okay, so you've worn your white shirt, you have to enter
BRT.
You enter BRT is fine.
Yeah.
But if you now have to go through the yellow buses, in fact, there was a day I entered one of those buses and it was raining, and then it was raining on me inside the vehicle. Like, I refused to pay the guy. Like, uncle, I could as well walk be inside this rain. So there's no way you're going to collect full money from me. Absolutely no way. It's not going to happen. So,
All right, the message is here. Daniel says, when I finally leave Lagos, the only thing I'll miss is Business Express. Daniel, look, tech should allow me to move to Enugu and still do this show. I'm telling you, we have to look at it. I'm telling you, I'm just tired of the traffic situation. Cruz says, use of technology. Can we see how smooth and fun the UK voting looks? That's what Taiwo. I'm sorry, who mentioned the UK elections? Not you. Yeah, it was Taiwo. MI says, e-voting. I'm here for it. Let's tech about it. Play on words. Nice. One big challenge to that process is the deliberate dysfunction that is pervasive. People who profit from chaos are usually scared of order. The literacy level is also a valid point. And then now says, OP be making moves. We're going to touch on that in a sec. Well, before we get to OP,
so
FAN. Apparently, the Federal Airports Authority, they've apparently banned the Ubers and Bolts of this world from picking up passengers who are arriving at the airports. What do we think about this development?
I think it's one step. We take one step forward and then take 5 steps backward. It's a free economy. Should be a free society. If we're really practicing free economics, or allowing people to just do their business, I don't see why they need to ban Uber. I don't see why I must be compelled to use a certain type of transportation. Have you seen those cabs? And how do you even get to them? You have to get to the car park in the back and then move on onto the international airport. I don't know about the local airport. So here we have people creating options, and they're telling us we don't have those options. That's my problem. So don't we have a say in who we choose or who we use? And again, who allows these agencies to just make these policies? Don't they have supervising ministries? So I mean, you begin to wonder. And I honestly, I say this very, very in a very responsible manner. Is it that some people have collected money from these cab association guys? Because I know these guys pay a heavy sum every year.
Yeah. I mean, so it's simple. The cab owners that pay the airport to be able to use the car park within the airport to sit there. And then if you from the comfort of your phone, order a ride to come and pick you up from the airport, it means you won't use the establishment, as the case might be. But I think also, I think I must mention, FAN came out, I saw a report that they denied
the banning them.
But
I was in Abuja 2 weeks ago, and I could not use an Uber to get out of the airport. When I landed at Nnamdi Azikiwe, I had to use one of the airport taxis. They said they were not allowed. So this is just 2 weeks ago.
Exactly. So I mean, it's the same way we've been talking about local rights on media, and then we can't even find it on the street. So I think Nigeria is used to that thing. You speak first and then think later. The same thing happened, with the FRC statement around using Google Maps to drive, and then coming out later and saying that
we didn't do that.
No, we didn't do that. So I think it's just a typical thing with Nigeria, and I think that's a big problem. So I think we're fighting this fight against just poor leadership, the best of us are not the ones ruling. So until we've again reformed the electoral system, I think it's just going to be this. I sound like freshly pressed, but
Noel, Tokwe, Josh, Sheon, they've all repeating what you said, that FAN came out. Ibrahim too. FAN. Okay, no, let's say Ibrahim saying something. They all kept repeating what you said, that FAN came out and denied it. But there's the reality of being at the airport and then looking at these denials. He said real quick. Ibrahim says FAN isn't protecting the cab's interests. They want Uber to come negotiate like a certain bike hailing company negotiated with NURTW. We know the end product of such conversations. Guys, thank you so much for your message. Abby, I see your message as well. Thank you so much for sending your messages. Apparently they say we're doing freshly pressed. So you guys sticking around.
Yes.
That's what they say. So Lagos will be back, the three of us, for freshly fresh. Should be a lot of fun.
I can't wait.
Taiwo, thanks for coming. Everybody, thanks for your messages. Valentine, thanks for holding it down. And we'll see you in 30 minutes.
Brought to you by Etisalat.
Yeah, now she said